Hello, welcome to Registered Words. We explore storytelling in all its forms. I'm Rob.
I'm Kate.
And just as we promised last week, this is our reaction, without spoilers, to the brand new Star Wars film that we saw yesterday.
So, The Force Awakens, probably the most eagerly awaited continuation film ever?
Possibly, yeah.
Has an awful lot to do. So the original trilogy, which were the number 4, 5 and 6, quite a long time ago now.
77 through to about 81, 83. I should
So,
probably know that.
Actually, kind of before we were born, you were into them when you were really little. I came to them a little bit later, but I mean, you were a massive fan, and then
Yeah.
I grew to really love them, and then obviously the prequels.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of my earliest memories is probably watching Star Wars. I think my mum and dad had taped it off ITV, so I can actually tell you where the ad breaks came. And my brother and I. So yeah, I was born in '82, so I did come to it a bit later. All our Star Wars toys were all sort of second-hand ones, and my cousins were into them as well.
Because you've got older cousins.
Slightly
that you
older
used
cousins,
to
yeah.
kind of play with when you were little.
Yeah, and we used to borrow their VHS, remember them? Of Empire and Jedi. We used to watch them in the wrong order, though, because we didn't really... I think when we were tiny, we preferred Jedi with the Ewoks to the long bit in Empire. Anyway, very much looking forward to this film.
Much excitement, much
anticipation.
excitement.
Especially after the disappointment of the prequels.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people were really hoping that this film would kind of right some of the wrongs of the prequels. And I think those were very difficult because that was very much to do with George Lucas and his particular ideas of kind of setting up the things that had to happen in episodes 4, 5 and 6. So, and I think that's really tricky when you're going back and you've got prequels. You're having to head towards certain things, you know.
Also, it's an outcome that everyone knows.
Yeah,
it's going to happen. We know who Anakin Skywalker is going to become. So it's not really a question of what happens. It's more why.
Yeah, and how you get to that point.
And unfortunately, it just wasn't that interesting.
Perhaps some of the casting wasn't fantastic.
The special effects now look really quite dated. Obviously, you've got the Jar Jar factor, who his part got diminished as the series went on.
Yeah, I think due to the feedback after episode 1. And it's such a shame because I think we were chatting about this yesterday. There are some bits of episode 1 which could have been really good. When I went to see it, I didn't have anywhere near as much invested in that as you guys did. And I really enjoyed the pod race sequence. I thought that was a great action sequence. And that was obviously calling back to the trench run from episode 4, where they're, you know, doing the runs to try and kind of shoot down the tunnel on the Death Star. And it's got that thing where, you know, they're kind of going through the canyon and so on. I really enjoyed that. I thought it was great fun. And there's also the Darth Maul lightsaber fight, which is a fantastic fight sequence. But those bits get forgotten because of just the awfulness of Jar Jar Binks, and then the whole weird kind of finance negotiation stuff, which is just so bizarre and a bit like trying to enjoy a Star Wars film when it's set in the European Union Parliament or
Brussels
something bizarre. It's just, I mean, if someone pitches that as an idea for an action sci-fi film, you're not really going to jump at it.
The Clone Wars bits were interesting, and then finally it was the Revenge of the Sith, where you actually kind of saw the bit that
I think that's definitely the best of the 3.
Easily, yeah.
And I mean, some bits in that are really brutal and really sad and moving, and the kind of relationship between Obi-Wan Kenobi and Anakin, and that is it's just sad and awful, and you know, it's all kind of reaching its peak. But and there's obviously the least Jar Jar in that film of all 3 as well.
But then we have another wait, and then finally we arrived with episode 7. So I was very excited about this film. Don't worry, we're not going to talk about spoilers. I actually practically took myself off the internet, other than the bare minimum, from Wednesday when it premiered in the UK anyway, up to Saturday afternoon. I would recommend people do that because it's best to go into this film not knowing really much about it. The trailers actually don't give too much away. There are big things that happen in this film, but I don't want to talk about those.
Yeah, I think the things that we can talk about are the casting.
Yeah, I want to talk about the casting, and I think just the overall how we feel about the film. So
yeah,
we were saying just before we recorded this, we want to go back and see it again.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we all really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's really, I really did. It has the spirit again of the originals. The casting is fantastic. It's a nice mixture of the familiar and the new. So the old cast are back, and there's that spirit of the banter in a good way. The zippy back
definitely.
and forth dialogue. So you got when you first see Harrison Ford and Han and Chewie again.
Yeah, there's that kind of fun banter between them. Also, BB-8 is a good kind of R2-D2 substitute, but it doesn't fall into that trap which the prequels did, where you had so much R2-D2 and C-3PO, you actually got a bit sick of them. So you don't have too much of that kind of silly comedy-ness. There's just the right amount. And yeah, you just have a bit of BB-8, and you get that interesting thing where all the characters can understand him, even though you can't quite understand him.
Yeah, and a lot of the jokes, kind of like when Chewie says something, he says something, and then the joke is in the line that's said back to him, sort of thing.
Yeah.
And with the new characters, you've got Daisy Ridley, who's playing Rey, and you've got John Boyega, who is Finn. Boyega, sorry, who is Finn. But they're completely new characters. You don't know anything about them, but by the end, you want to spend a lot more time with them, and they feel equally as important as characters from the other films.
Absolutely, they're interesting characters. They're fully rounded characters. I think all the new people you meet fit really well in the world. I was really impressed with it, and I thought also what was nice was that the new characters solved some of the problems of the original.
Yeah.
That obviously in the original trilogy, you've basically got Luke and Han and Leia, and Luke and Han are kind of the action people, and Leia does a bit, but not that much.
Yeah.
And it's nice that Rey is basically the main character.
Yeah.
That Finn is important too. And it does. It starts with another character. It starts with another male character, Poe, but actually he's not the main character. It is Rey who's the main character. She's a woman, and she's got lots of agency, and she's the one who solves a lot of problems, and has got a lot of skills that she's had to learn because she's had to cope on her own in the desert. And I really enjoyed that. And lots of the X-wing pilots are female, and the engineers and so on, and the Stormtrooper and basically the Empire, although they're now called
the First
Order.
Yeah.
Lots of those people are women as well, and it's just generally seems kind of more equal.
And also, nice. One problem I had with the prequels was, I said it before, like the special effects look dated. Well, this is hard to be dated because it all looks just real.
Yeah.
Like the prequels, everything was kind of shiny and it didn't quite look right. This is a world, we're back to Star Wars again, where it kind of feels lived in. And I think there is a lot of stuff that they built. I think a lot of the creatures aren't CGI, they're puppetry. BB-8's certainly real. And it just felt like it fitted. It felt like in continuation, it felt like a real world. And I really can't wait to go and watch it again. Bringing it back to books, I've never really been a fan of like the continuation novels sort of thing.
No, and I mean, I think I've always been a bit sniffy in the past about reading novelizations or continuation novels of films. I mean, and I've always been very much in general, I've always been very much a read the book rather than see the film type person, although I've relaxed a bit about that recently.
I kind of do want to read a bit more about this. There's a few books out there that bridge the gap between Jedi and this one. There's a novelisation of this one, and I'm actually kind of tempted. I've never really done that before.
We mentioned there was one by Chuck Wendig.
Chuck Wendig, I think it's called Aftermath or something, which bridges the gap between Jedi and this one. There's also some Marvel stuff that does the same. There's Alan Dean Foster, who apparently, when it comes to novelizations, he's the guy to go and ask for. He's just brought one out. I think that's a testament to the film. I kind of want to spend a bit more time with these characters.
Yeah.
Because we can go back to the cinema again. We will, but it's a long while till we can buy it on Blu-ray.
Yeah,
watch it on repeat.
After episodes 1 to 3, although at the time I did enjoy them, and I have watched them. Well, not episode 1 recently, but I have watched them all since on DVD. I didn't want to go straight back and watch them again in the cinema. This, I would go back today and watch again in the cinema.
I would, yeah.
I really did love it. I would say at the time when it finished, I actually kind of felt overwhelmed.
The three of us who went to see it, we kind of sat there in silence, not really knowing what to say. I really enjoyed it, although I did have to say, might have blubbed twice.
Mm-hmm.
I think I could feel you blubbing next to me, your arm moving up and down. But it's good fun. It ticks all the boxes for me. The music's back. John Williams is doing the music, which is a very important part of Star Wars.
Yeah, it's got the proper music.
And so we got to wait a year, 2 years to the next one.
Yeah, till episode 8.
Episode 8. So yeah, it's a big thumbs up from us. If you've seen it, do let us know.
But obviously, don't tweet any spoilers.
Don't tweet anything, no, and you'll know what we mean once you've seen it. No spoilers. This is. I genuinely recommend. I'll say this again. Go into this knowing as little as possible.
Yeah.
So we'll be back next week with our Christmas special, which we didn't realise at the time is actually our 150th episode.
Mm-hmm.
And that's with Simon and Gav, our Here Read This colleagues, which we can now say is back in January. Yeah. We hadn't decided that when we recorded it. We're doing things slightly out of order here, but yeah.
Yeah, we already recorded us playing a somewhat chaotic game of Book Chase and chatting about various things that we've read and whatnot in between.
And actually, Simon and I have finally got around to recording our little live discussion, which, spoilers, didn't end up in a fight. But we have a really good discussion. So if you're intrigued in that book, do listen to that. Well, I would recommend you having read it first, of course. And then you and I will be back on New Year's Day with our Book of the Year awards-ish ceremony. Yep.
Indeed.
So that's it for this week. We will be back on Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm.
So Merry Christmas.
Indeed.
If you want to follow me during the week, I am at Rob Chilver on Instagram and Twitter.
And if you'd like to follow me during the week, I'm at magic_kitten.
Thanks for listening.